This is the first of two public consultations online with Godfried Donkor regarding a new public art commission for Denmark Hill Station and Camberwell. I'm going to pass you over now to Godfried, who is the artist, and Kelly O'Reilly, who is both the chair of Camberwell Arts and one of the coordinators for this project as part of the group identity project for Camberwell.
Thanks, Shauna, and thank you those of you for attending. Just to run quickly over the background to the project for those who may not know, this is part of the new entrance to Denmark Hill Station that will open in April 2021. As part of the works, there was an opportunity identified to kind of place a public artwork during the ongoing development works, and this is something the Camberwell Society in particular were instrumental in gaining permission for from Network Rail, so huge thanks to them. And they've been working with the Camberwell Identity Group, which is themselves, the SE5 Forum and Camberwell Arts, to develop a steering group for the sculpture. So we did put out a public call in June this year. We were delighted to receive over 50 responses, many very high level responses. So it's quite a tricky task to narrow it down. We did shortlist 4 artists, and in August this year made the decision to award the contract to Godfried. So Godfried, we're so pleased to be commissioning you for your first permanent public artwork, which will go up at Denmark Hill Station. So just as a bit of background for those who don't know your work, can you tell us a bit about your artistic practice and maybe some personal career highlights as part of that?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. It's great to be here. Yeah, so I think my practice has always been informed by kind of ideas I had about my duality. Like, you know, I'm African, but I'm also British. I'm English, but I'm also Ghanaian. And I've always been interested in the visuals that can create or that can suggest. And so, you know, what does it mean to be kind of have a duality as a practicing artist? You can bring those two cultures into being and create work visuals from it. So I've always been making work about that. A lot of my projects have been preoccupied with histories of Africa, histories of Europe, histories of America, and trying to kind of layer it and put it together to make a new image. So I've been very fortunate to travel all over the world because of my art, including exhibitions in museums, in biennales. I've done amazing projects with like Puma to make the Ghana football shirt. I mean, imagine like being asked to design a football kit for your Ghanaian national team. It's like, it was, there we go. So that was an amazing, and my mother was so proud, and it was like, this is my biggest audience to boot. It's like every time they played in the kit, you know, it was a big worldwide audience.
Yeah, I guess that is like multi-millions of people will have seen that.
Yeah, and as a visual artist, to be able to do that is kind of phenomenal, really. So in terms of personal career highlights, I mean, I think for me, every time I'm working, that's a personal highlight. My current project is a personal highlight. So this project now is my personal highlight, because to be able to be an artist, to be able to practice, to be able to do what I'm doing is amazing. And I kind of have to remind myself that, you know, it was a big struggle for me to become an artist. The notion of being an artist for someone with my background was unheard of. And so what is that? And when I went to art school, I remember that, you know, there was hardly anyone like me there. So I had to kind of reimagine what I would do and how I would survive. And because my parents were so against it, I had to make sure that whatever I did in this field had to be successful. Otherwise, I would prove them right. Or my mother always spoke to me secretly, but so all of those things I think I'm aware of when I work. Yeah.
And I think this is going to be another great platform for you as well, just in terms of, you know, sheer numbers of people seeing the work. So I think it's been estimated that, you know, 10,000 people a day will kind of, you know, pass through Denmark Hill Station. So that is a great opportunity to bring art into places where, you know, people who may not ordinarily experience art will now have an opportunity to sort of see something that will hopefully kind of take them out of their everyday lives and their everyday environment. I guess that is one of the sort of struggles with public art is, you know, who are you creating it for? It's such a kind of amorphous audience. It's sort of, you know, and I think for us that was sort of one of the reasons your application did stick out was through the sort of this iconography of the Adinkra. So your past work has explored saints, sinners, sportsmen, flags, the FT and more. What made you choose Adinkra for this particular project?
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, one of the things that I'm most interested in when I'm working is that I have ideas and projects that I've been wanting to do that I've kept, you know, dormant and think about all the time. And so, you know, Adinkra was something that I've thought about and played around with, had ideas about. My mother was a dressmaker and she also printed fabric. So she printed Adinkra fabrics. And this is how we traditionally associate with Adinkra. I've always thought about how to expand that. And I think this extraordinary year we've had with the lockdown and everything gave me so much time to think that I was just basically going through so many ideas. And when this project came out, I remember that I collect proverbs, I collect Ashanti proverbs, not only from Ghana, but I collect proverbs from different countries. I've just got a book on proverbs from Ivory Coast recently. And when I'm in the Caribbean, for example, I've got proverbs from Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, and proverbs of Adinkra is a form of proverbs. And I've always wanted to mesh and layer the two.
Maybe know what an Adinkra is. Do you want to very quickly just explain?
Yeah, so Adinkra are a series of images, a series of icons that have meaning, that are associated with ways of living and social. So for example, Akuma in Twaso, this one here is called linked hearts. And in our language, it kind of personifies harmony and community. So people will like wear this as a cloth, or they'll use it sometimes or decorating their houses. And it's a kind of, it's a proverb, but it's also a visual association. So I've always been interested in this and wanting to know how I can bring it into my practice and how I can make a project with it. So when this competition came up, or this call for artists, it was, I'd been thinking about it during lockdown, going through some, and I was thinking, well, let me put it out there. Let me see what happens. Let me suggest it. And amazingly, it was taken on to the next stage and the next stage after that.
So one of the, so the key theme for commissioning theme for this project was to reflect Camberwell's history of innovation in health, medicine and well-being. So what is it about Adinkra that you think fits that health and well-being theme so well?
I mean, I'm hoping that that the Adinkras can kind of capture people's imagination in the community. So this Ayafern, I'm not afraid of you, for me, symbolizing endurance, for me, really symbolized what we've been going through all this year in 2020 with the lockdown and the fear of the corona and the fear of each other. We're not supposed to meet, we're not supposed to engage, but then we have to have a defiant game. You know, we have to face this. We're going to be with this possibility for a number of years now. So we're going to have to now adapt how we're going to deal with it. And it kind of made me think in Africa, or in Ghana, for example, people use these symbols to kind of get on with their lives, get them from day to day, but also inspire them, you know, when they're feeling vulnerable. So these ideas, I think, are interesting. I'm hoping that
the kind of proverbs that you hope will inspire people as we're sort of continuing in, you know, self-isolation, lockdown.
I mean, also it's a work of art, so it's got to be something that people find pleasing and beautiful. It's got to be something that, you know, where it's situated, people either passing through or waiting for a train or on a train would kind of see as aesthetically pleasing and interested in it, for example, and then curious about it. So I'm hoping that it works, and and it fits together.
Yeah, and I think they really do have something to say to us sort of during COVID. I think the sort of passing down of knowledge between generations, between communities, I think it is, something we've, for all the kind of devastation of COVID, there is, in some ways, people are starting to sort of feel the sense of community.
Yeah, and what COVID made me feel, Kelly, was that for the first time, it was actually palpable that the whole globe, everybody was going through a similar thing. And that made me think about, okay, we all actually have a similar history, actually, and we have a similar background. And we experience things maybe at slightly different points, but almost the same things. We experience the same things. And so if that's the case, then I can bring a symbol from Ghana or Ashanti culture and bring it here, and it be adopted here and seen, and taken on. So the symbol of femininity, Dufie, is about love and care. So that can be something that's people here will take on, and you know what I'm saying, and feel attached to. That for me was very fascinating.
And I think as well, there has been, one of the things when we wrote this brief, we were in the middle of COVID, we were fully expecting artists to use COVID as part of their kind of response to health and well-being. But it went out before the murder of George Floyd and the subsequent BLM demonstrations around the world. And so we couldn't have sort of foreseen how this might impact on how people see art in public spaces. Did it in any way, did the Black Lives Matter demonstrations in any way inform your proposal, which was obviously submitted after?
Yeah. No, I think rather than affect my response, I was thinking of, I think carefully about things like iconography and our histories, and what happens if we start to take down statues and sculptures that we don't like anymore because of the history attached to it. Bearing in mind that we all have the same history. So my history is your history is mine. 18th century history, we all have the same history. So I don't know if we can forget our history by removing parts that we don't like.
I certainly agree with that. I suppose I was thinking less about removing things than sort of maybe how we think about future commissioning to sort of have diversity.
My thing about history is the context and how I can relate different parts of history together. Because after we've spoken tonight becomes history. Tonight is history. And then, so there's histories related to time, present, and the future. It's quite interesting that the Sankofa symbol is like look back in time and look back and fetch. So learn from the past. So for me, I think as an artist, I'm not reacting to what is. I am reacting to what's happening, and I am aware of what's happening because I'm part of it, because we're all having the same history. But I'm also reacting from a different timeline, if you know what I'm saying.
Seeing it in terms of a longer term perspective.
Yeah, and also I'm seeing it in terms of a never end. I don't know what the outcome will be. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if 150 years time somebody, or even 10 years time, somebody's going to take down something I've done, or not like anything that I've made, so, or misunderstand the work of art that I've created because things have shifted. I'm not sure if I can preoccupy myself with that. I'm kind of more interested in what I can bring to the table rather than what I can take away.
Sure, and I think one of the reasons your proposal did ultimately stand out was this idea that it is a new iconography, but it's also a kind of an ancient iconography, and it's sort of one that feels readily understandable to everybody. There's some very abstract symbols within Adinkra, but there's some, the bird is obviously a very recognizable one, but within that there's meanings that you do kind of need the proverb to fully understand. So we kind of, we felt that it had that universal appeal, and that it would appeal to, adults, young children, people who are, commuters who are sort of passing it by every day, people who are just seeing it once or twice, and staff and patients at the nearby hospitals, and also, and visitors to the hospital who may be experiencing a lot of personal difficulties, we kind of thought that, it sort of had that potential to speak to everybody. And as a collective artistic language, I know you're really looking for local residents to help you decide which Adinkra are the best fit for Camberwell. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how they can get involved in that process?
Yeah, I think what we've been doing is that we put together a little pack, and then there are, I've kind of, because there are over 108, in fact, there are more. When the Adinkras started in the 18th century, there were probably 24 or so, but there have been so many. And the thing about Adinkra is nobody owns them. It doesn't belong to an individual, it belongs to the whole nation. And people have added Adinkras. There's over 108 now. And so I chose 20 as part of the possibilities that we can show people to select. So we've been asking people to select what they liked, which ones tell them about Camberwell, which ones were kind of reminded them of the theme of health and well-being. And it's been quite interesting, some of the responses, because people are relating to aspects of the symbols, talking about strength, about unity, about diversity in community, about communities joining each other. And I guess also, I think we want to suggest that they can make up their own symbols about how they feel about themselves. So we're trying to do that. We're trying to kind of, I saw the posters at the station, I think, that we've been putting up, and we're trying to do postcards. But I want as much engagement as I can get, because it's helping me to also formalize my visual of the piece on the plinth, because I also have to formalize the visual and work out what language I want to speak. Yeah, so this is the example. Work out what language I want to, what I want to say and how it should read.
Yeah, and I know Sean has been, painstakingly putting together an online poll, so to make it easy for those who aren't, haven't been taking part in our community workshops.
Sorry, Kelly, I want to have all of that information as well.
Yeah, so basically, so obviously tonight, I've spoken a lot, but now I should really hand over to everybody else to see if there's any questions they'd like to ask you, Godfried. And I hope everybody here tonight will kind of, Shauna will put up a link at the end telling you where you can go online to take part in our online poll, and sort of other ways to get engaged with the project. So does anybody have any questions that they'd like to put to Godfried? Either about the project or about his own artistic practice?
Yes.
Hello, Debbie.
Yes, so I was wondering, are the Adinkra always positive, the sort of meanings of them always positive, or have you simply selected the positive ones?
Okay, so because I was going with the theme of well-being and health, yeah, so that was my main guideline. So I was very much interested in Adinkras that could actually speak to that. So they all turn out to be positive, because well-being and health is something that you have Adinkras about going to war. You have Adinkras about guns.
Okay.
So there are different ones.
I was wondering.
Yeah. So you have Adinkras about death. You have Adinkras about funerals. There's ones that you wear to go to funerals. There's ones that you wear to go to war. Yeah. So okay. I was just strictly guided by the well-being and health thing.
Yeah. Put your hand up again.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Can I ask, is it still very much a living tradition? I mean, would, for example, would other members of the community who live in London, would they recognise the symbols when they saw them?
Absolutely, Richard. Let me just show you. I don't know if I can get this for you to see. Can anyone see that?
Yeah.
It looks a bit black. I just can see.
When you hold it right up, we can see it. So like
yes.
Yeah.
So you can see this is somebody would women would wear this as a funeral garment. And this is a piece.
Right.
This is my mother designed this, and these are all Adinkra symbols. So they represent the person whose funeral you're going to is related to you or whatever. You have different symbols. And you can have this in red and black and brown. Yeah.
So are the colors that you use also relevant to the symbols? Because in the images that have been sent through for the poll, there's a small selection of background colors that they seem to have. And I was wondering if they are typical to the meaning of the Adinkra.
I mean, normally the ones you see are always in black. So it's black Adinkra symbols and then a white background. But like I said, they can be used in different. What I wanted to do in this instance is to try, and this is all part of the process I'm interested in, is to try and bring them into a realm where they have different colors and they have different. The colors relate to where they are. You understand? So, you know, normally they'll be in red, there'll be solid colors. Reds, blacks, browns, blues, indigos.
So in a way you're creating another level of meaning with the color on it.
Yes, with my proposal. So what I want to bring with my proposal is to bring them out of the way that I like to work is because I use the light from Ghana and Ghana in general, and then also the light from here. So I'm trying to kind of bring the colors from Ghana here, but then as they come here, they kind of change into the colors, English colors, if you like. Or but I'm playing with that idea.
Marie, did you have a question?
Yeah. I was very interested when you were talking about proverbs and Adinkras being a way that people use to help them get through, and you were saying that it's really tough for everybody to get through COVID. So how would you see Adinkras and the artwork you're creating as a way of helping people get through it? Could you talk just a bit more about that? I was really interested.
I always wonder what purpose my art is. I mean, how does my art help anyone get through anything? And how does art, because I never, you know, I always ponder that all the time. And I think if the work I make gives someone a feeling of curiosity or a feeling of, oh, let me find out more about this. Oh, and let me just stay here a little bit longer and have a look at this. Or let me just pass through this part of their market just because this is there. That to me is enough. And that brings me, you know, that the worst thing for me as an artist is somebody to just walk past my work of art and not recognize or not even notice it. So to be noticed for me as an artist is the most important thing. And then what that effect is later is something else. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that sort of sense of connection as well, I think is, you know, you're one artist interpreting Adinkra, but, you know, thousands of people interpret them in different ways every day. You know, people wear them as tattoos, people put them on t-shirts, people wear them as jewelry. And so I think you're doing something new and different with them, but actually it's part of a shared tradition. I think that sort of sharing, you know, does make people feel better, I think. Sort of,
yeah, and also I
alone as well.
Yeah, and also, Kelly, I did think about the fact that it was in Camberwell and the fact that Camberwell has a huge population of West Africans, huge population of Ghanaians. And then the idea that somebody will be going to work and they'll be had a stressful morning or whatever, and then all of a sudden they'll see an Adinkra and think, what is that doing there? I mean, and that becomes for me very, very a different proposition, doesn't it? And that they could be inspired by something from their country here in their area where they live, and never thought about how it got there and all kinds of. So for me, that's the sensation of art that you can create.
And I think they're quite recognisable to, you know, even if you don't know anything at all about the history of Adinkra, I think there's something in them that is very easy to respond to. I mean, when I've sort of been showing them to people recently, they've all. And I don't know if that's because we're, you know, just increasingly a visual culture, and, you know, teenagers, you know, communicate by emojis. So, you know, people very readily understand visual systems. So I think, you know, I've sort of found that people with no background knowledge are sort of quite easily working out sort of key themes and key strands.
And also they have like Chinese type characters, and they're a bit like, you know, Indian sculptures. They have a kind of a universal appeal to them, don't they? In terms of, especially if you convert the 2D to 3D.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, actually, because they are wonderfully abstract as two-dimensional.
Yeah.
And so how are you going to create them as three-dimensional for the sculpture?
So this is our challenge, Debbie, that we're going through right
now. Okay.
I'm not going to give the game away, but no, basically.
Right.
No, but that basically is, I mean, again, I can show you something, because let me just show you something.
Okay.
Okay, so all over Ghana, can you see?
Yes.
Yes. Stool. This is a stool.
It's a seat.
It's a chair. It's a stool, yeah. And that is an Adinkra. So this is an Adinkra symbol here. This is the most famous Adinkra symbol. Everyone must have seen this. Yeah. And
what is that symbol?
That is the symbol of this. They call it the king of Adinkra symbol. It means only God. Everything is. We leave everything to God. God is the only one who can solve everything.
Okay.
So Jinyame is the most famous Adinkra symbol. And you can see how it could be, this thing could be 3D. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carved. And even this, still what I'm sitting on now, is carved, and that's an Adinkra.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So I've lived with this all my life. Everywhere I go, like we say, somebody will have their fence, their stone fence carved out of Adinkra symbol, or their metal fence carved out of these Adinkra symbols.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody may have their chairs done out of them, you know, or their table base, a base for their table, their dining table.
So it's a very well-used vocabulary.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay.
And that's what I like about it. It doesn't belong to anybody. So there's no copyright. It belongs to all of us. So nobody can say, oh, you've nicked my Adinkra or something.
Except that when we decide that on the Camberwell one, we'll put a copyright on it and say,
I know.
Anyone can use it if they live in Camberwell, but if you try and take it to Peckham, sorry, that's contravening all conditions around.
Down like a ton of bricks.
No, it's so it is very. So I do know that it can be three-dimensional. I have to kind of work out the formulation for how it fits into the space. For me, that is really how that's really my challenge, is how it fits into the space on the plinth, under the canopy, in that situation on the so that's the challenge.
And do you already have a sense of the material you want to use?
Yeah, I always do, but I'm exploring more, because I think about materials, then I think about the finish. And then I have practicalities of longevity, outside, the weather, the climate. So, but yes, absolutely. I mean, these are my preoccupations right now, sleepless nights.
And so,
lucky you.
With the idea of creating a new Adinkra for Camberwell, where does the process start? So obviously there is some, as we're doing now, public consultation to see what people's ideas of Camberwell are, and I guess that would link it to former work with the Identity Project and other things that have been created about in the last few years about what Camberwell means to people. But do you then pick teams and then develop a meaning and then develop an image, or is there ideas that come out and there's already more traditional ways of describing that image? So as you were saying earlier about Chinese characters, that from what I understand is that they grow through meaning, is that the combination of separate meanings into one creates something new? Or is it going to try to be an Adinkra style representation of an idea that is decided through the public consultation?
No, I mean the Adinkra designs are there. They're like an alphabet that that are set. But Camberwell can choose an Adinkra that means something else, maybe in Ghana, but to them here, to people here, means. What's been interesting about speaking to people in Camberwell, like the schools we've been to, like the kids were saying how Camberwell to them was about strength, about unity, about diversity, about supporting. So first of all, I think the process is what is it to be in Camberwell, from Camberwell, and what is that feeling? What does that mean? What does it mean? And then we look for a symbol that maybe visualizes that. It's not necessarily creating a brand new symbol, because there's so many symbols, there's so many shapes there that you can very easily find a shape that you think that people think that personifies being a Camberwellian, if there's such a word. Well, that's
yeah.
And I think in some of the one of the workshop exercises they've been doing is to sort of create an Adinkra. So starting out from a sort of collage basis to potentially, chop up bits of existing Adinkra and put them together. So you might take three: one representing strength, one representing unity, one representing diversity, and then pull different elements into one image to sort of see what works as a sort of fresh icon. Yeah, so it's a sort of, it will be interesting to see what comes out through the sort of schools and community group workshop program. And I think we'll put that call out to sort of other local artists as well, just to see if anybody is intrigued and would like to contribute to that conversation. And
as an artist, when I'm working, I want to put off that moment where I have to decide what I'm going to finally make the artwork. I want to put it off as long as I can, because I want to carry on with the process of trying to, just research and enjoying that. But we have deadlines. We have to be in place by January. We have to be, open by April. So that normally people I work with, curators or galleries, they always complain, you just want to carry on working, don't you? So that's what I want to do.
Well, you can carry on working, Godfried, as long as the deadlines are.
I'll be on this the next couple of years.
So, we certainly think it's got legs to extend beyond the actual public sculpture in terms of.
Sure, no, but I know I have to produce something for Denmark. Yeah, so it's a kind of a process. So the piece for Camberwell, I think, really initially comes out. We're not going to look at shapes first. We want to look at emotions, but what's Camberwell mean, and what Camberwell, how does it feel to be from Camberwell, as opposed to Brixton, Peckham, whatever, Battersea, and Camberwell seems to have a much stronger ideal for that, I think. I know Brixton has its own image, and so, but I'm very interested in what people feel about places that they live in.
And I think the project fits in really well with the work that Marie and Debbie and others have been doing on the Camberwell Identity Project to kind of explore exactly this. So, Shauna, you mentioned colours earlier, and actually we will consult about the final colours. So these are all just a starting point, and we wanted to use colourful images rather than the black, traditional black, to sort of really start that process of people thinking about how colour can impact on well-being as well. But as a starting point, we have used the Camberwell Identity colour palette, mixing it in with a new colour just to kind of, encourage people to see that afresh as well. So so that was sort of thinking about the colours used.
Marie, what was it you were going to say? You have your hand up.
Yeah, I was really interested that the young people at the school, a lot of them picked up the butterfly, which means that this is us. But also a lot of what they were saying about we'll support each other, we'll care for each other, we're a strong community, was almost like those proverbs. That's why I was very interested that you were talking about proverbs. It was almost like they were saying things to comfort themselves about how they get through it. So just talk a bit more about the role of proverbs and why you go around collecting them. And yeah,
but that's what proverbs do. They tell us that things are going to be okay. Oh, it's happened before, if you're getting married, and you know, this way, this is how you behave as a husband, this is how you behave as a wife. And so sometimes, you know, in a married couple, you might find that the wife will look up a proverb to say, oh, your husband stays out too long, maybe, you know, maybe you have to be more gentle at home when he gets home, that kind of thing. So that's a way that we
Or there may be a proverb saying, your husband gets home late, give him a clap around the head when he gets home.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's that, or you know, the husband comes home. There's a wonderful proverb that I love that that Jamaicans have. They said, "Be careful to pet a skinny dog because he's going to bite you." That means because he's hungry. So, in Jamaica, you don't pet skinny dogs because they're starving. That's why they're skinny. So these are kind of they are sayings, aren't they? Proverbs are sayings. They're things that we say that people pick up on and say, oh, let me keep that, I'll remember that. You know, it makes sense to me, doesn't it? So do we have English proverbs? I'm sure we have English proverbs.
Yes.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, these are kind of proverbs, aren't they?
Yeah, and I suppose they offer reassurance, and they're also a shorthand, aren't they? It's kind of, you know, this whole
Exactly. Yeah,
well, one image.
exactly.
So just before we finish up, I'm going to put the link to the poll that which is now open for the Adinkra for Camberwell. And in the meantime, if anybody has any more questions for Godfried, please do feel free to share. Just it won't be entirely on the screen. Richard, please do go ahead.
Well, it was just I personally have a dislike of a lot of artwork which has a huge amount of written description next to it. But it seems to me in this case that a bit of description about the Adinkra is a really essential part of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it might be very relevant to the people who understand it.
Sure.
Because it's part of their tradition, but surely this is a way of introducing a whole new language almost to a population that doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah, sure, Richard, that's a really good point, because luckily, actually, we were during the proposals and when I was going through the shortlisting, we mentioned the plinth where the artwork will be. Is there's a ramp, then there's a plinth, and then there's a ramp around it. Is also a wonderful space for putting descriptions about the project, and so there's I'm also thinking about Adinkra tiles that will go on there, and then the text will be in that kind of format so that the text will be textured, so the text will also look like tiles. So the information about the work or about Adinkras or what it means will also be part of the artwork, if I can pull it off. That's the idea. Right. The idea is to use the plinth, the base of the artwork, as the information center, but also as an artwork in itself.
Yeah, that sounds great. Really good.
So that's something that turned out actually as we were, and there's a bit of extra money to do that. So I'm really thankful to Tony for that. So that's really good.
And you went to see the station and where it's going to be, didn't you?
Yeah, I went there with Tony. Yes, absolutely. So now I've got like these visuals of the even though they haven't started working yet, I'm going to have to constantly be going backwards and forwards. But it was very interesting for me to see where it would be situated, angles, ideas about views where you can see sculpture, because you know, paintings are very easy. They're on the wall and that's it. You see them on the wall pretty much, square on from the sideways, but sculptures, you can see them from many different angles from above. Yeah, so all those things are I'm considering.
I just tried that and it didn't come up with anything. So there've been a number of you know, Ruskin Park and Denmark Hill Estate who wanted to do something, and it'd be good to send them around the pack. But I've just tried that HTTP thing, and so what's the link for everyone to use?
You know that it's the Adinkra is spelt wrongly. in this.
Oh, that would probably be it.
Something like
Thanks,
software.
guys.
Yeah, there's no AN, it's ADINKRA.
No, I tried it with Adinkra. I couldn't. So the link to send round, is that the one at the side, or is it the one you've just done but with Adinkra?
There's a longer one. Shauna was trying to put up a shorter one for you, but obviously the longer one is working, so we can just email that to everybody. Or do you want to get it up on the slide, Shauna?
I can start that again. And guys, I'm going to reset this bit.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm going to cut this bit out of the recording where I apparently put up the wrong link. So let's just double check it for a sec, because it should be okay. This bit won't go live, so we're fine, guys.
I can't. Yeah.
Slash. Oh, I put Adinkra.
Yeah.
No.
Does it work if you type without the N, Marie?
No.
No, it's my fault. I put an N in there. I wasn't supposed to.
No, without the N, it's still not coming up.
Yeah, no, with the N, it should do. Anyway, we'll cut all of this bit out. Right. I'm going to go make this big again. Oh, sorry, I need to stop sharing. So I'm going to overlay something that has the correct link on that.
While we're talking, Godfried, what was the most interesting sort of view or question from the Sacred Heart young people?
I think they basically, I mean, we had a very quick time with them. They were basically saying that the message they were giving is that they all felt the same way about being in Camberwell. And I think the sense of they were talking about looking after each other and taking care of each other, and that they have. So that made me aware that they were all very worried about the current situation that we're in. And so they see this project as a way of fortifying what they believe. So they were choosing symbols that made them feel like they were linked and supportive of each other and encouraging of each other.
Okay.
And then, yeah, the strength to carry on. But there was no feeling of kind of people feeling despondent or anything. I mean, I think it was still quite positive. Very, they were very curious about the collages. But we had an exercise for 30 minutes, so they had to get off.
But I thought what was good about that is they picked it up immediately. You explained it, and they just got what the whole thing was about. It didn't require a lot of. They weren't asking lots of questions. I don't understand it. They just completely got it as soon as Godfried explained it, didn't they, Godfried?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they immediately started working with them, immediately started picking them up and looking at them. And
it was almost like they've seen them before, they were familiar with them. Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting what you said before about how obviously Adinkra and symbols like that have been integral to cultures that aren't necessarily, so I'm from Ireland, we don't necessarily have the same, we have some Celtic symbols, but we don't have the same visual language. And up until recently, that kind of application of a visual language, unless it, didn't really translate to the general public in the British Isles. And now with a younger generation, which I wish that I call myself one of, I'm no good at emojis. But that visual.
Oh, you are, Sean.
But the visual language has so quickly become something that people have become used to, and they can now communicate in that in a way that maybe this is the right time for this project. That you now have people who can better understand. There's not as many barriers to entry of what you're trying to say. This is a new and let me say better form of visual languages that people are looking at the moment.
No, absolutely. And by the way, I always like was attracted to Celtic symbols because I thought they reminded me of Adinkras. And so they were like, oh, these are like Irish Adinkras, and then
There's some West Coast trading.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about what's fascinating is the timeline that we use to you know, that we think about in terms of what we do. It's like the Adinkra idea has been fermented in my mind for like 10 or 15 years, but I don't know if I would have done it if there wasn't a lockdown this year. I may have been off somewhere else. I may not have even applied for this project. So it may have not have happened, and somebody else may have. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's the timelines that you're right when you the way that the young people think now is they're thinking not necessarily in words only, but in symbols and shapes and icons, and they make words of icons and symbols.
Yeah.
So for them, it was very easy for them to recognize that, oh, I don't know what this is, but I like it. I'll take this on, and I'll take what it means and do something else with it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Can I just ask the group if we have any more questions? And if not, thanks everyone for joining us for this public consultation tonight. We will, as you'll probably see it, have it up online for a little while in case you want to put through your comments to us at camberwellartsfestival@gmail.com, and then we'll collate it for Godfried. Also, we'll be sharing the link at the end, so if you can vote for your favorite Dinka, so you can have your vote on what should be part of the public commission at Denmark Hill Station. I just want to thank now to everyone who joined in the call tonight, and also to Kelly and to Godfried. And we can't wait to see what you come up with, apparently very soon. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Right, chat to you later.
Thanks, Shauna, for the Zoom link and sharing it also. Thank you very much for that.
Bye-bye.
We'll send you the link with all those who we've got emails for. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.